Thank you, Guy, for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to talk about the wine grape production and how we should manage the nitrogen, which is a key nutrient in wine grape production. When we talk about wine grape, here you have a picture of a wine grape plantation, and we most of the time focus on the grape and the crop itself. But what we've learned and what we are still learning in France is that it's not only grape production, it's not only grape trees, but it's also the development and the introduction and the development of the intercrops, which has been requested by different standards and certification bodies to prevent from soil leaching, nutrient leach, as well as soil conservation policy. And of course, when you consider grape trees and grape cultivation, you have to take into account what is grown as intercrop. And intercrop will compete with grapes for sunlight, for water, as well as for nutrients. Because wine grape and intercropping, they have some mutual benefits. And as I was just mentioning, it will protect against soil erosion. It will improve soil organic matter and improves water infiltration. But you will also, it has been developed to reduce the sensitivity of the wine grapes to fungal disease. And also, if you have a more competition between grass, for instance, and the grapes, you will have less manual operation like pruning and leaf thinning. And on the other hand, there will be it will foster competition between grapes and grasses in water supply and also nutrients. And as you know, grass are highly demanding in nitrogen. So it will be also one of the key nutrients to look into that. Just as a brief reminder about the importance of nitrogen, we know that nitrogen is also important for vine vigor, and also it will allow the grapes, the wine trees to develop new roots at the same time also as the flowering, as well as fruit growth and fruit enlargement. In this graph, you will see what is the influence of intercrop wine grape and conventional grapes without anything grown in between the lines. And in the orange bar, this is a conventional grape cultivation, and you will see that the production, which is a standard of 100, you will see that the potential is still the same and is still at a level of 100. On the other hand, when you consider and when you start growing, let's say, when you introduce the intercrop, you will see that the potential is much more reduced, down to 12% in terms of production, in terms of number of grape per wines, from 100 to 96, and as well as the bunch weight. You will see that from 100, it will go down to 88, 89%. So the introduction of intercropping will have an influence on the production, the number of grapes, and the bunch weight, which are the components of the yield. Here there is a graph showing a clear dose response of nitrogen application in terms of yield, on the yield, and you will see that you will have not, of course, a very, very clear dose response, but quite a regular increase of the rate of in the yield increase depending on the rate of nitrogen. Again, on the bunch weight, you will have also a dose response of different rates of nitrogen on the bunch, the weight of the bunch. We discussed about the importance of the nitrogen on the yield. What is also important is the importance of the nitrogen in the let's say in the quality, in the content in the must, because the yeast are using high amounts of nitrogen for their own development during the wine making process, meaning again the fermentation. And if a yeast doesn't have enough nitrogen, then you may have a sluggish fermentations, a lot of non-wanted alcohol types, as well as compounds that contain sulfur, which is give a bitter taste of your wine. So it will indeed affect the quality of the wine. Nitrogen also plays a key role in the timing of the fermentation. In this graph, you will see that when you have untreated plots without any intercropping, you will see that the length of fermentation will take up to 17 days, in the fermentation on the wine. If you consider that that the yeast will be low in nitrogen and in intercrop, with a competition between the grass, the intercrop, and the production, you will see that the fermentation, the length of the fermentation will take up to 49 days. So this is also very important to consider, that if you want to achieve a good quality of your wine, and if you want to have a good control of your fermentation, the level of the nitrogen and the natural nitrogen will be also very important. Nitrogen also has a key role also in the Brix content. It will improve the Brix content, and again, it will have an influence, an incidence in the pH of the must. And again, we know that managing the pH in the fermentation process will help you to have a better control of your fermentation and get the best aromas for your wines. The free amino acids, which are also related to the level of nitrogen, is also important to consider when you want to achieve a good quality wine. And you will see that in this graph, that the curve, the higher are the free amino acids in the must, the best let's say score you will get in the aromas of your wine. So how we manage the the nitrogen in the wine, in grape wine. In this graph, you will see that timing is key for end supply, and end supply have to follow the uptake, the nitrogen uptake curve that is presented in this slide. And most of the grape requirements of nitrogen requirements are at, let's say, end of flowering and beginning of berry fill. So you have one let's say one top here, and the second one will be just before veraison stage. And supplying nitrogen at the right time is important, and as well as, so you will have to split the application of nitrogen, because the nitrogen availability in the soil will differ whether it's a rainy, whether you are in a rainy situation or in a dry situation. The soil will be able to release enough nitrogen if it's very wet. If you are in dry condition, then there will be a shortage, and that will be resulting in a less vigorous wine trees, and also a bit yellowish, and also you will not get the right quality. In this slide, we are sharing with you one of the trials we carried out with French Institute of Wine in 2007. And this is, those trials has been done with foliar application of nitrogen to be able to not to increase significantly the yield, but to make some foliar nitrogen application to make sure that we are achieving the right millésime, the right wine quality, which is also very, very important. Do not look at the yield, but look at the quality. And what we found out is that we have an increase of nitrogen thanks to following to several applications of nitrogen. We had some increase of the nitrogen level in the must, but most importantly, we have had some 50% increase in wine aromas, which are also linked with some mercaptohexanol acetyl or mercaptohexanol aromas versus the untreated. And this was tested by a group of experts that has been confirmed that we have much more aromas thanks to following to nitrogen application. So if you compare the Yara program with foliar nitrogen application compared to untreated, then you will get the thiol aroma, a much higher score in the amount of thiol aromas. The sugar levels will be the same, assuming that you will have provided enough potassium in your program. The acidity is slightly the same. The quantity, the volume is the same. The main difference is linked to the aromatic mode, which is also key. And you also have a link between the expression of aromas and the fermentation speed and the quality of the fermentation process. I think those two parameters are key to achieve a good yield, a good quality of your wines. Why foliar applied nitrogen is important to consider is following to several trials that we have carried out with the French Institute of Wine. where we compare soil application of nitrogen and foliar application. And by applying foliar application, we noticed that we have a much higher amount of aroma, of thiol aromas in the must.